And with that, we'll begin. Starting off tonight, we're going to talk about risk management. Risk management is the most critical aspect of being a consistently profitable trader, in my opinion. You can have the right strategy, you can execute pretty well most of the time, but if you're not exercising proper risk management, you got a hole in your pocket. All your money's going to fall out. If you spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday trading 5 contracts and you win every single day, but on Friday you decide, oh, this position is going against me, I'm going to average down. Oh, it went a little further against me, I'm going to average down some more. Oh, it went a little further against me, I'm going to average down some more. And before you know it, you wind up blowing everything that you've worked for and all the gains that you've really taken your time and been diligent and been disciplined to build up. And this is going to be a short section, and then we're going to talk about the actual account and bankroll strategy, which I think is vastly undercovered in the world of trading strategies. So let's get into it. Effective risk management is a crucial aspect of profitable trading. This involves setting your appropriate stop loss orders to minimize potential losses, as well as using correct position sizing techniques to ensure that your overall risk exposure is in line with your trading plan and your personal risk tolerance levels. Let's talk about the stop losses. Setting stop loss orders. Stop loss orders are orders that are placed to automatically sell a position if it reaches a certain price level. Hopefully every one of us in here tonight knows what a stop loss order is. Anyways, you guys know I like to start with a definition, so here we go. But by setting stop loss orders, you can minimize your potential losses on a trade if that trade doesn't go in your favor. It's important to set appropriate stop loss levels based on that risk tolerance that we talked about and your personal trading plan. How many times have we done all the work to go in there in our trading plan and determine our exact area of entry, our exact area of exit on profitable trades or on trades that were profitable and are starting to go against us, and we know that exactly how we're going to play that trade. But let's just say we didn't get a perfect entry and we had our stop loss set immediately when we entered, and then we decide to make the cardinal sin. I know you guys know what the cardinal sin is. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us in here have done this. You ever moved your stop loss? You ever turned off that stop loss? You ever dragged it to give it a little room to breathe? How many of us, I know I have said, oh, it just needs a little bit of room to breathe. Let me just tell you guys, that is a load of bull hockey. Okay? The best trades, you've heard me say this time and time again, over and over again. The best trades do what? They go in your favor immediately. You jump in, you're in profit, you ride the rocket, you cash out. So why would we want to give a bad trade, a trade that's not in our favor, room to breathe? We're basically admitting to ourselves in different set of words, okay, I'm going to break my rules and I'm going to lose more money than what I initially set out to lose. That's not the way to do it, right? That's what you're saying to yourself if you're saying, I'm going to give it room to breathe. You initially determined that stop loss point was the amount, dollar-wise, percentage-wise, etc., that you're willing to risk on that trade. And then you threw that plan out the window. Let's talk about our risk to reward ratio. The risk to reward ratio is the ratio of the potential loss on a trade to the potential gain. By targeting trades with a favorable risk to reward ratio, you can increase your chances of profitability over the long run. I don't know if you guys remember back in the Always Trade for Tomorrow series, we discussed having a profitable win rate having a consistent win rate first, and then we were going to go back and dial into risk to reward. Now, for this, every single person is going to have a different risk to reward ratio based on their account size, based on their tolerance level, based on their risk management profile, how long they've been trading, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing is that it's time for some of us to begin thinking about which trades have the correct risk to reward ratio. For the others of you who are still working on getting your win ratio, your win rate to a profitable percentage, this is something that you should be working on in the future. But for right now, we're just working on a new trader. Hey, let's stop the bleeding. Let's improve our win rate. Let's be consistent. Let's grab our baseline profitability. And then we'll use tweaks along the way to improve each and every time. With those two things being said, I know that we've covered those over and over and over and over again. So tonight I didn't want to spend too much time on them, but they are a very important part of bankroll / account strategy. So I wanted to allude to them briefly at the start, but we'll talk about it more later in bankroll and account strategy, but especially with some of you guys who got introduced to how to set up your futures account yesterday. Let me reiterate that a proper stop loss is more important in futures than in options, in my opinion. And I love options. I've made plenty of money with options. I'll always love options. I still plan to trade options in the future. But for right now, I've been working on this futures thing. I've been introducing it, learning it. And I can tell you firsthand that having a stop loss is 100% critical at all times in futures, period, end of story. I'm not going to rant on you guys anymore tonight. I'm going to move this along. But I hope that's one thing that, if anything, burns in your mind tonight. We harp a lot on entries. We harp a lot on, having the correct criteria met, being disciplined, et cetera, et cetera. And you can have that whole entire 90% right. But if your stop losses and your risk to reward is off, you're not going to be a consistently profitable trader. And I know the people in here, I'm not going to call names, but I know there's a lot of good traders that when they dialed in their stop loss, they became profitable traders. I know there's some in here still on the fence that have a win rate that they win more times than they lose. They probably win 8 out of 10 trades. The problem is that on those 2 trades, their risk to reward was not proper, their stop loss was not proper, and therefore they are losing traders. And I can raise my hand on that, guys. That was the last, big turning point for me, was holding my losers too long, removing stop losses. I mean, I feel it. But like I said, I'm not going to harp on it. So let's move this forward. And me say only one more time. Stop losses are crucial and should be in use at all times, in my opinion, period. So let's talk about one thing that everybody dances around. This is something that is completely unique for each and every trader. This is something that in my private coaching, one thing I do, the first thing I do is help people come up with a trade plan, which is what OT and I did here. OT spent a whole week going over the trade plan, how to set it up, showing y'all how to execute it, showing y'all how to write it up. And now we're going to cover the bankroll strategy, which is the second aspect of that, because it's critical to your account to know exactly what you should be playing position size and how to manage that money for trading as a business. We've heard a lot of people say in 2023, I want my trading to take over my regular job. Or some people say, I'm retired. I just want to supplement my income. I need a little bit of extra money. Well, with that, it's not as linear as, okay, I made $10 today, make $10 tomorrow, make $10 the next day, and at the end of the week, I made $50. Trading as a business is not that simple, guys, and we're going to get into that now. We're going to talk about risk-based position sizing for your account. We're going to talk about fixed dollar position sizing for your account. And we're going to talk about volatility-based position sizing for your account. In risk-based position sizing, this involves determining the maximum amount of risk that you're willing to take on for each trade, and then calculating the position size accordingly. For example, if you have a $50,000 account and you're willing to risk 2% of your account on each trade, then you could take a position up to $1,000. Well, let's scale that down. Let's say if you're starting with a $5,000 account and you want to risk 2% of your account on each trade, you could take a position up to $100. Now, there's a lot of schools of thought on this, being that if your stop loss is 15% of that trade, then that's the actual amount you're risking, not the entire 2% of your account on every trade, as long as you're not willing to let it go to zero. However, there are traders that will let trades go to zero, and in that case, they need to really think about their risk-based position sizing along with other things that I'll cover later on to protect themselves. These are things that I want to put into your mind tonight. You start thinking about, you may not have the answer tonight exactly how much you should risk on every trade. We've heard different things from 1 contract per 1,000 to, aggressively 5-10 contracts per 1,000, depending on your account size, depending on your risk tolerance level, depending on if you have a refundable bankroll or not. Some people are not able to replenish their bankroll. Some people don't have, a job outside of there that they can say, oh, well, if I just blow up my account, then, I'll wait till the next payday, or I'll wait till the next time I hit a lick and I'll replenish my bankroll. I'll buy back in. Then again, some people do. Some people have that and they say, well, I'm going to be a little more lax because I know, every Friday I got XYZ amount of money coming in. It's unique to every person, but these are things that you need to think about in order to begin being a long-term profitable trader and start converting that to trading as a business. Let's talk about fixed dollar position sizing. With this approach, you determine the position size based on a fixed dollar amount rather than a percentage of your account. For example, you may decide to risk $500 on each trade regardless of the size of your account. When I was trading options, I did more of that risk-based percentage of my account trading strategy. With futures, I find myself looking more towards a fixed dollar position sizing. And we will talk about that, a little bit more in depth as we go forward. But with futures, okay, on this particular commodity, let's just say ES, since that's primarily what we're going to trade, every dollar move on ES is $50 in or against your favor. If you're betting long and it goes up $1, you made $50. If it goes down and you lose $1, you lost $50. So for me, it's much cleaner to be able to set my stop losses as well as my daily targets off of a fixed dollar position size. Let's talk about the third one. This is just what I just said. It is important to note that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to position sizing, and the right approach for you will depend on your individual circumstances and risk tolerance. It can be helpful to experiment with different position sizing methods to find the one that works best for you. And this is a process, just like everything else we do. Learning yourself, learning the risks that you're comfortable with, learning how you trade. Are you a conservative trader? Are you aggressive trader? Are you a, on and on and on, which to me, they go opposite. What does that mean? That means that for me, being a semi-aggressive trader needs to have a twice as conservative bankroll account strategy. Whereas a conservative trader, a trader that takes less trades, a trader that has a higher win rate, a trader that is very disciplined with their stop losses, they can have a little bit more aggressive bankroll strategy because they're not going to put themselves in danger that much on the front end. So therefore their account can handle it. Whereas somebody like me who may take a bigger shot needs to have a much more conservative bankroll strategy to ensure that they don't ever take a hit that's too big to recover from. Let's talk about trading as a business. These are things 6 people have asked me this week about taxes. You know the old cliche, there's only 2 things in life you can't get around, and it's death and taxes, right? Oh, Uncle Sam's got to have his cut. That's all there is to it. Futures trading is a little more complicated with the tax strategy, and there is a few benefits to futures trading. Futures trading is taxed a little bit more favorably, and I'm not going to go into taxes any further than just to say that that's something that you need to determine with your individual accountant. And I do suggest that each person who plans on being a mark-to-market trader, which is designated as a full-time trader, which allows you to claim your losses properly, that you get an accountant. In doing so, they're going to help you determine write-offs. They're going to help you determine how to properly claim your taxes, how to do your withholdings quarterly. I'm thankful that, my wife is a very detail-oriented person. So to be honest, even if I wanted to elaborate on taxes with y'all, I really couldn't get myself in too much trouble other than to say hire the accountant, because she prepares the paperwork and she sends it to the accountant. God just happened to bless me by that. But let's talk about the next bracket here, and that is growth and diversification. Okay, if 2023 is the start of our upward trend as profitable traders, we don't always want to be trading the same thing. If we were comfortable doing the same job every day and making the same money every day, then we might as well stay, in our job doing whatever, right? Because the raises we're not in control of, what we do every day we're not in control of. A lot of us wanted to become traders full time to have the freedom to control our life. Well, in that case, we need to continue to grow. Well, in that situation, it takes money set aside to be able to grow. And certain parts of that, depending on your age and the financial plan that you come up with, you're going to put maybe some of that into bonds, like fixed income units. You might put some of the money that you earn from SPY into dividend paying stocks. You might hold some of it just in simple index funds. I did actually go to school at Emory University to be a certified financial planner. I'm not currently licensed in that, so I can't help you guys determine your own financial plan. But I would say it's not a bad idea to reach out and talk to one, even if you manage your money yourself. Talk to one. Most of them will generously help you out to come up with a plan for yourself and for how you need to distribute your profits. But not only outside of that, it will help you to grow. Let's just say if you're starting the beginning of 2023 trading one option contract at a time, and your goal over the course of 2023 is to move that to 3 contracts. Well, obviously you're going to need a little bit more bankroll. Obviously you're going to need a little bit larger account to provide yourself some security. Well, in order to do that, you have to be able to set aside that money for growth purposes, not only for long-term diversification. Let's talk about trading as a business. The third step you have to take out living expenses for yourself to live on. We all have bills to pay. We all have, gas, food, rent, electricity, mortgage, insurance, etc., etc., etc. If you're going to trade as a full-time business, you have to know, number one, what amount do you need to cover that? And number two, what's your plan to get that? I'm going to share mine with y'all because it's very simple. I've actually done this similar plan in different areas of my life, even with different side hustles that I had outside. Some of those, the tax thing may or may not have been a factor if it was a cash business, but Uncle Sam hopefully isn't listening. And then fourthly, we have F it money. This may or may not be a thing for you. To me, that's my freedom at money. That's the money that maybe doesn't necessarily go onto mama's desk for her to send to the accountant. That's the money that maybe if I need to buy a little surprise gift for her or one of the kids, I got a little kitty stashed away. That's the money for me that if a gun goes on sale at Academy Sports and I want to go down there and buy it, no questions asked, I have that. You may or may not be that type of person, but some days you just need that rainy day fund. Some days you lose a trade and you're mad at the world and you say, hey, I gotta have a little kitty over here, a little piggy bank I can smash and go get me a Starbucks. Or I could say, hey, let's take the rest of the day off and go to the movies. Whatever the case is for you, but I'm just introducing this as a concept so that people who are looking to become consistently profitable long-term traders will have these ideas in mind. And hopefully after this class, you'll each create one of these plans for your own self. For me, it looks a little something like this. My taxes are actually less than that, at least last year. We have other business interests, etc. And I paid a little less than 30%, thankfully. But our accountant files that quarterly. We have to take out money. We have to write a check, to the IRS. At least the last 8 quarters or something, I had to write a check. They didn't give me anything back. But I have to set aside that money because otherwise, when we first started our Amazon business, even before I was a full-time trader, we were late. We were late with the tax payment. And let me just tell you, state of Georgia was on the phone. They don't play about their money. They want it. They will. This is an important thing. If you're still trading as an individual, this may not be such a big factor to you. But when you go to be a full-time trader, you definitely have to set aside money for this. Growth and diversification. You want to be able to grow your account. You want to be able to stick a little bit aside, not only for a rainy day, but for the big rainy day. God forbid anything happened to me, but, a little something for my wife. Maybe a little something for your husband, for your wife. Maybe something to help you grow your account so that you can trade more contracts the following year. For me, 40% is my living expenses. I'm thankful I have a pretty cheap, living expenses. I live in a low cost of living state currently. And then I put just my little bit, just my little daddy's money right here, a little 5%. And I'm fixing to backtrack this for you and show you how I came up with these percentages. Yours will be different. Your percentages can look any way you want to. I would say the taxes one is probably pretty close. You may go as high as 40%, but on average, I'd say you'd be 30 to 35%. Everything else you can structure pretty much how you want to. Once again, please visit an accountant for that tax advice. So for me to back it up in reverse and to work in reverse to figure out a target of what I needed to make for my trading business, I assumed that my budget would work on the same amount that I was bringing home at my job, $1,000 a week. That replaced my current salary with no overtime. And then from knowing that for my budget and yours, maybe you may only need $200 a week for your budget. For your goal, you may say, I'm only trading to try to make a payment on a Hellcat every month. I don't need as much as you, Joker. Or you may say, hey, you know what? My wife's addicted to Louis Vuitton. I like to go fancy steakhouses. My yacht payment is a little bit too high. Whatever the case is, you need more money, so you would have to extrapolate this different. Yeah, maybe you or your spouse has an Amazon addiction. That's another hole in your pocket. And you have to make your numbers different. For me, based on that $4,000, I said, okay, for me to bring home $1,000 a week, I need to have that 40% be a total of $2,500. So what does that leave me for extra spending money? 5%, $125 a week. Living expenses, $1,000 a week. My growth and diversification. And you can look at growth and diversification. You could replace that with rebuys. Maybe you're not to the point that you're ready to grow. Maybe you're barely treading water. Maybe you're hanging in there by a thread. And when you take a good day, set some aside. In Trade of 8 futures, you can create multiple accounts. In TD Ameritrade, you can create multiple accounts. Set that aside where you're not looking at it, where you're not trading it. Put it into maybe something that you can use to maybe gain a little appreciation. Not something speculative, in my opinion, but something that's there in case you say, man, it's been 3 months and I've been doing good. I've been, slightly better than break even, but today I had a case of the Holden Hopes, and I had a case of the average downs, and I had a case of the FITs, and I had a case. Well, now instead of that growth and diversification for you, you've got a little bit of rebuy. You got okay, I'm used to trading a $500 or $1,000 account. On good days, I've worked my rebuy up in there, and I've got 2 extra rebuys. You can ask OT. That's exactly how I used to look at it, guys. Because I might make $15,000 in one day, and I might turn around and blow 12 the next day. Because I was at that point in my trading career where I was winning more often than not. But on the days that I was not winning, I was really not winning. You know what I'm saying? And that's where this strategy kind of got developed for the rebuys. And as you get more consistent, you can turn that into growth. Then you can turn that into diversifications. Maybe down the road, maybe in 2024, 2025, we're learning how to sell options in here. We're doing other different strategies for making money in the market. I can absolutely teach y'all how to read a balance sheet. I follow a lot of other stocks, hopefully in quality companies. We can learn together. That's what this community is about, is us learning and growing to create generational wealth and security and freedom for our families based on each of our individual vision boards, right? I won't elaborate any more on that, but then, of course, you got your old friend, the ball and chain, your taxes. For me, I extrapolated that that's how much I needed to set aside. And for me, I took that number and I said, okay, $2,500 weekly times 52 weeks equals $130,000 yearly. That sounds like a lot, but obviously if you go in there and you take out the taxes and the living expenses, it's not as great as it sounds. But I'm thankful. The universe has blessed me. But $130,000 yearly divided by 250 trading days, it equals a target of $520 a day. Maybe your target is $50 a day. Maybe your target is $200 a day. You guys know I share my heart. I share my target. If you've seen my YouTube videos, you know what my target per day is. But this is where stuff really gets interesting, is a lot of people are scared to put a target on their trading day. Maybe because of the place we came from before with a fear-based mentality or a lack mentality, or just possibly the fact that they didn't know how to properly trade. So when they got lucky, they wanted to hold on to that luck. I'm not really sure what the scenario was. But what I do know is that for me, and from a lot of the things I've learned since then, some of the most profitable traders have a target that they want to hit every day. And as soon as they hit that target, it's time to go home. And that's win or lose. So for me, that's become a big part of my strategy going forward into the new year, and taking into account the risk to reward that we talked about before, and taking into account for me the dollar size stop losses as well as quit time when you're going to leave the market. But what you shouldn't do, and I wrote this in red here for y'all, you should never force a trade based on a goal. Because it says at the bottom why. We talked about this at the beginning. Risk management, capital preservation is the number one key to this game. Before making any profits, before you get out of bed, before you pass go, before you collect $200, the goal here is not to lose money. So we're not going to force a trade. What we're going to do, we're going to be patient. We're going to execute our plan properly. Pardon me. We're going to hit our goals, and we're not going to force those trades, so that when we do get the good trades, when we do get those jackpot trades, when we do get those honeypot trades, just like we saw some Friday, we sat there and we sat there and we sat there and we sat there some more. We waited, we TikToked, we twiddled our thumbs, we painted our nails, we twirled our hair, and then finally she fell off of a cliff, and a lot of us made money. That's where that goal comes in. But let's just say that goal comes in at 10 o'clock in the morning. Are you going to be disciplined enough to quit and say, okay, I made my target for the day? Or maybe you took a bad trade and you say, I hit my max loss for the day. I'm shutting her down. And as you know, yesterday's Skadoosh showed everybody how in the futures profile there, they have a way to lock yourself out of it as if you're at a casino or something of the like. But with TD, trading options, you just have to be a little bit more disciplined to be able to say, hey, I'm shutting down my platform. I'm done for the day, win or lose. Now, for me, using that risk to reward, I like to have a loss day be equal to one target day for myself. Okay, for that, as you saw, $500. If I lose $500 on the day, and sometimes because you're in a trade, because you have a position size that equals out more than that, but if I lose any more than $500, I have to quit for the day. For you, that may be a different scenario. It may be based on your account size when you lose $50. It may be based on your account size when you lose $5,000. We got some real operators in here. Whatever the case may be, only you can determine it. But I think it's super important not only to identify carefully your stop losses, identify your account goals so that you know what you're actually working for, and to identify your daily quit times, or not times, but levels. For me, I like to use that 3-to-1. So if my daily loss is 500, if I make 1,500 on a day, I need to quit immediately, right then. Okay, for you, like I said, once again, do it by tens. It could be 15,000. It could be 150. Only you can set that, but I think it's very important that you have that in your mind, because otherwise, let's just say you're like Mr. Christopher Columbus and you're sailing around the world, but you don't know when to stop. When do you hit America? When do you reach your destination? And you know what I hear probably, I don't know, a dozen times a week, probably at least 2 to 3 times a day. Man, I was up. I was ahead. I had XYZ amount of dollars, and I kept playing. And I gave back that money. And I wasted that money, and I gave that money away. Well, let me ask you this. Would you have been happy if you'd have quit with the amount of money that you had before you continued playing? 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. We know what we all say to each other when we're in here sharing after hours. We know what some of our losses look like. We know what some of our wins look like. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. Yes, I'd have been thrilled if I'd have got out at the end of the day with the amount of money I had before I gave it back. Okay. Why didn't you have a destination goal in mind before you got there. It's like starting a road trip and you have a starting point on your map and you got no final destination. It's foolish, guys. It's foolish. And that's one thing that I feel like gets neglected a lot. And this slide here says it. At any given specialty in life, you can define as many variables as you possibly can so that you can do anything necessary to increase your odds of success. If you're a sniper, like we talked about in some of these other series, you know the wind direction. You know where your target's at. You know how far away you are. You know what your camouflage situation looks like, right? If you're a football player, you know all those, you know your plays. You don't go out in there and, you haven't memorized a single play and you're just out there calling Omahas like Peyton Manning left and right the whole game. That ain't going to work because it'd be pandemonium. None of your linebackers know what to do. None of your linemen know what to do. None of your receivers know what to do, and it's just chaos. What we're trying to do here is remember all the way back to the first series of Suck Less, we're following a recipe. Okay? And in that recipe, it's not until you become Wolfgang Puck or somebody that you can just say a dash of this, a dash of that, a dash of this, until you've done something so many times that you can do it with your eyes closed until it's second nature. You need to follow that recipe. And the recipe says 1 egg, 1 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, you mix all this together and you get a cake, right? So why, as traders, would we have half of a recipe? No time that we're going to stop for the day loss-wise. No max loss on the day. And no profit snagging quit early time, I guess you want to call it. I don't really have a catchy name for that. One of y'all probably does, but I think you get the idea. And to me, this is one of the most neglected areas in most trader education and their planning. It really is, guys, because this one thing, not even so much the stop loss. Maybe you've already got your stop loss situation down. But maybe you're down 500 and all of a sudden you decide you're going to go on tilt. I know some of us in this chat have been on tilt before. And then you really turn into an effort day, right? Then you lose the whole money. You can blow your whole account. You just don't care about it anymore. And we've all felt that. But what if you had that safeguard in place to say, oh, time out. I hit my max loss. Time to go home. And when you said it, for me, in my mind, with the red day, it's, okay, I knocked myself out of one day. If I go in tomorrow and have a good day, or maybe the day before yesterday, I had a great day and I hit my 1,500 go home early target. Well, that's 3 days ahead. So now if I only lost that one day, I'm still 2 days ahead, right? Now you're playing from ahead instead of behind when you're thinking this way. Instead of chasing and thinking, I got to get every dime. I got to play every move. I got to sit here the whole day, even when the market's not favorable. We talked about that last week in chat. Why are we still sitting here? We don't have to. And sometimes some of us will be sitting in chat mixing it up and we've already closed down our platform and whatever, and that's cool. But what I would say is that please, please, please consider not only your stop loss work, but your daily in and out goal. Write it down, define that extra variable, lock it in, and give yourself one less thing to think about besides identifying those quality moves. Tonight, I'm going to end with this call to action. Like always, I want to challenge everybody to do that. I want you to think about your daily quit. And quit, sometimes in our society, has a negative connotation. How many times did we say about Tom Brady this year? Should have quit while he was ahead. How many times did they say that about Michael Jordan? Two of the greatest people in sports history that overstayed their welcome. How many of y'all had in-laws over for Christmas And by the third, fourth day, you can't stand to hardly look at them. They smell and their breath stinks and you don't like the way they look and they're farting in the sofa and, whatever the case is. You're ready to get rid of them. They overstayed their welcome. Know the same thing so that you don't do that in the market. Know your quit. Also, go over your bankroll strategy and determine your position size. At least once a week, I wind up with somebody who had a position size locked in, and they say, I broke my position size, I averaged down, or I got greedy and I took too big of a position. Whenever that happens, you're throwing off your risk management strategy. And if we know that the risk management strategy, that's our life jacket. Our risk management is what keeps us safe from sinking out here. Because we know that we can have a bad day. We can have several bad days sometimes and still be a profitable trader. But if we decide to abandon our life jacket, if we decide to start taking on water in the boat because we're screwing around with our risk management profile, that's not gonna help things, guys. That's only gonna make things worse. Think about your growth goals and how to achieve those. Maybe right now your goal is to go in there and get $50 in the market and go home. Be done. Leave. Adios. Maybe your goal is to go in there and get 200. Either way, most of the time we want to grow in some type of way, form, or fashion. So identify, okay, when I'm consistently achieving $50 a day in the market, what's next for me as a trader? Do I want to up my contract size and try to make more money per day? Do I want to spend more time doing charity work and maybe volunteering at the homeless shelter near me? Do I want to be more involved in my church? Do I want to be a room mother at my kids' classroom? Whatever your growth goals are, identify them, because then it becomes easier to eliminate that variable. Your mind is already geared to follow it based off the law of attraction that we did week before last, and it's going to be much easier to hit that. And determine if you're one of those traders who's not profitable yet. Determine how you're going to structure your rebuys. And then use that to determine how long are you going to continue the same behavior expecting a different result. How long are you going to continue to move your stop loss and throw away money at the market before you realize a better way? Before you stop averaging down, before you stop going into the hole, before you stop having a rebuy, especially when the people who do that usually win more often than not. In my experience as a coach and talking with traders, interacting with traders, living as a trader every single day, what do I know about that? The ones who lose the biggest are usually the best traders because they know, they're so confident that they're right 9 times out of 10. They have such a hard time accepting the fact that they're wrong. So instead, it costs them twice as much. Well, recognize that in yourself that, hey, you are a great trader, but you're still human. It's okay to be wrong occasionally. And when it is, don't shoot yourself in the foot. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. That's simple. And that's my call to action for you guys. I thank you so much for being here tonight. I thank you guys for letting me share. Tomorrow night, we're going to be going into more some of the behavioral change stuff. But I felt like I was remiss if I didn't hammer down this stuff tonight for y'all about your stop losses and your bankroll strategy. Bankroll strategy and risk management is number one way to be successful long term, and it's often the most neglected. So tomorrow, I look forward to seeing everybody here. Thank you again for tonight. And I give it over to you, Mr. OT.